happy Friday. It's nice to have everybody here. I am Christy, and today we're going to be talking all about interest inventories for homeschool students. Now, this information can still be applicable to teachers in the classroom as well, but we're going to go ahead and kind of open it up to homeschool parents as well. So, if you don't know me, my name is Christy, and I help teachers and homeschool moms systematize their writing instructions so that they can produce more motivated and engaged student writers. So let's go ahead and hop right in and chat about the agenda today. So let me make it nice and big for you. So we're going to be focusing on types of interest inventories that we can be using. We're going to talk about how to assess and collect the data that comes from those interest inventories. And then how do we apply that information once we obtain the results? So let's go ahead and hop right in. And so let's go ahead and focus in on the types. So why would we do or perform or provide an interest inventory for our students? And when you are planning instruction or you are trying to plan your lesson plans or give your students the lessons that they need to do or the assignments, we need to make sure that we're providing the right information based off of their needs, their experiences, all the things. So when we do an interest inventory, we are able to get that information so that we can better plan. So let's talk about the types. So what we have here up on the screen is little kind of arch of a variety of different inventories that we can do. So there's the aptitude tests, interest skills-based inventories, interest inventories, personality, decision, achievement, and then values. So I want to touch on the aptitude versus the value surveys that you can give your students. So an aptitude test evaluates and distincts aspects of a person's cognitive ability. So I think the easiest way to say this is an aptitude assessment is what students are able to learn versus an achievement test or inventory is what they've already learned. So there's a variety of different inventories that you can provide for your students in order to get information to help you better plan for future things. So again, I want to touch on the aptitude and achievement just because the other ones are kind of more obvious. So the skills kind of goes along with the achievement, but the skills, interest is what it is. Same thing, personality and things like that. So again, aptitude is what is a measure or a survey that measures what they've learned, okay, or what they have the potential to learn, sorry. And then the achievement survey is what they have already learned. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at some examples. So there's a whole lot of surveys that are available to you when you are surfing the web that you can make up your own. But I want to touch on the different kinds. So this one here, you can't see the whole thing, but this first one, the student interest inventory with a little girl with books, that one is more of a scale of faces, happy face, kind of just no thought, and then a no, like an absolute. They're kind of one extreme to the other. For younger students, or you can use it as for older students, but it's easier for students that are younger to take something like this that measures their interests. Like, for example, how do you feel about science? Do you like to read? Things like that. So instead of them answering in complete sentences, they could then just kind of shade in how they're feeling based off of the emotional emoji. And then for other students, maybe younger, again, these can be per your students too. This kind of goes along with what type of interest inventory are you going to give based off of the type of students you have. So if they're more visual and they struggle with the reading, you could read it obviously, but if they want to do it, you want them to do it more independently, they could look off of these pictures. So this is, choose your favorite kind of activity. And then they just kind of either color it in or circle, things like that. So that's another type of interest survey. Now that says reading survey, but you could do one for reading, you could do it for activities, you could do it for music, whatever it is. And then again, this one over here, this Garfield one is another type of survey. It's another type of skill versus the happy face or the emoji face. This one is kind of showing different emotions of Garfield. So again, it's a scale. You could also do number scales. So for the older students, you could do a scale. Kind of just like when children go to the doctor and they're asked on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your pain, right? And then they have usually these emojis that have the screaming emoji, like, I'm like in pain versus, I'm happy and I'm fine. Okay. And then there's other interest surveys that you can just have them write in and fill in the blank. So obviously the interest survey that you provide your students or your children, if you're homeschooling, then will depend on the type of kiddo that you have. Like I say, if they struggle, you might give them a picture. If they are visual, you might give them a picture. Maybe if they're auditory, you just read them, the information, things like that. So there's a lot of different ways you can perform these. And again, this is not just one of those another assessment type thing. It's really truly trying to dig into what it is that your student, your child needs. Like what makes them tick? What do they love? What do they strongly dislike? Things like that. And so when we do that, we're finding their interests, and then we can use those things, as we'll talk about in a minute, to plan out our instruction, plan out the activities that we do with the students and things like that. Okay, so those are some types. In other live videos, we've talked about these activities as well, and I'll just kind of run through them as a brief review. So you can do what I have here. This is one of the items I offer that you can download from the website, but it's a place where students can go and just brain dump, just jot down all their ideas. And what you see there is little prompts like I remember when. So maybe their favorite trips or their activities that they've done. And in my opinion, what do you like? What do you don't like? What do you think people should do that would be more persuasive? So there's actually a variety of writing genres there, but it makes them think about these topics that they can just have a place where they just put all their ideas in one spot. And so that's what that is. Then of course there's the bookmarks that follow along the same idea. They're given a writing like a sentence starter, makes them think about some things and just listing some ideas that they have. And then over on the side here to the right, the posters that you see up on the wall are just an example of if you were to put them around your home or your classroom, and basically just little ideas. Maybe it's just specific, like what activities do you like to do? And the kids can either draw a picture or write their answer. It's very applicable to wherever you are, your environment. And then the game of torpedo, which you can go back and watch some of the previous trainings. I go more into depth in that, but it's same idea. You give them a topic, you give them a timer, and let them just kind of go through, and they pass along the paper if there's multiple children or just one, and it's just a time for them to just not have any structure or rules or anything like that in regards to what they write on the paper. It's just ideas to get down. So later you have this bucket that you can grab from in the future. Okay, so whatever interest inventory you perform, whatever you choose, you could either do it this more, I wouldn't say it's formal, a little still informal, but just more structured. So you have predetermined questions, and then you've got, you can give it via words, sentences, pictures, skills, however you want to do it. And so these are just ways that you can obtain this information so that you can better plan as you move forward. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue here. The next thing I want to talk about is assessing or collecting that data, however you want to say it. But what do you do once you get the results from the surveys? Okay, so a couple things. So we can learn the learning style of the child that we're working with. We can learn their academic level based off the type of interest inventory that we provide. We can learn about their experiences, their interests, maybe their behavior type. You know, when you give them a topic, do they hate it? Do they love it? Maybe, it might be eye-opening as to why they respond the way they do when you provide them with certain activities and assignments to do. And then I switched up the color a little bit because the other thing that these interest inventories do, or these type of surveys do for us, is they help us, as I mentioned, lesson plan moving forward. They help us plan our activities that we're going to do, not per student, but have an idea. It helps us group our students. So if we take the information from the interest inventory that we have, and we have a variety of kids that do not like to be in big groups or things of that nature. They're more timid, they're more introverted, but they like to build. Maybe when you give an assignment, same assignment for the whole class, but change it up a little bit and say, hey, this group, you guys, build or construct or whatever it is. So not that you have to do that in every lesson, but it's just nice to know what makes these kids tick and what makes them want to learn. Because at that point, once we have that information, which is valuable, then we can then plan, which then we will have more buy-in, we will have more engagement, and then there's going to be more learning. You're not going to spend your time fighting and doing all the things just to get your student to work, because they're going to be engaged because they are enjoying it. All right. And then again, these surveys help us figure out the process. When I say process, it is going from point A to point B. So here I am teaching opinion writing to my whole class or my group of homeschool students. Okay, so here I am, and I'm going to deliver the lesson to everyone. The end result, the end product needs to be an opinion piece, right? Whether it be a paragraph, multiple paragraphs, whatever the end piece product is, whatever your objective is. Okay, but the process, how they got from point A to point B, that's the process. So how they went about it. So if I'm teaching opinion and I teach everyone who's in my group or my classroom the opinion lesson, and everyone needs to have an opinion paragraph, let's say, okay? If I have students that can't write, maybe it's their fine motor skills, maybe it's just whatever the case may be, then they may be able to construct, I don't know, some sort of end product, or manipulate a clay or something like that. You can do a lot of different things where the product, whether maybe they just tell you, maybe they just verbally tell you their thoughts, and then you have a scribe to get it down. The purpose is, though, of this whole thing is that it's not just another performance for us to do. It's not another thing check off our checklist. It's literally something we need to learn about our students or our own children. A lot of times, if we're homeschooling, we know a lot about our children, but have we really given them an opportunity to just really share their likes, what they don't like? And then again, that's how we can tweak our activities and things like that. So going back to this last piece, the process, how they get there does not matter. It doesn't. If they can get to point B, creating that product how they do it best, then that's a win. It's a win-win. Okay, and then I want to talk about the application. So we've done our interest inventory. We've chosen what inventory we want to provide our students. We've gotten the data. We've collected it. We're kind of going, compiling it, getting it organized. And then what do we do with it? Okay, now what? How do we apply it? So we've talked about a little bit how we can do that as we move forward in our lesson planning and activity building and all these things. But let's talk about this. So once you have your information, I found this graphic and I thought it was awesome because it has the different zones. Okay, so why do we need to know about our students. For obvious reasons, we're planning and we want to yada yada, we want buy-in, all these things, but it's also more than that. So we all understand that we have different types of learners. They learn differently. They need different things. They need to be challenged in different ways, or maybe things are too challenging, right? So in this graphic here, it goes from the stretch zone, it talks about the panic zone, and then the comfort zone. So when you're taking your interest inventory results, okay, and you're planning, I want you to keep these pieces in mind. So we want our kids comfortable, okay, in a sense. But at the same time, when we keep them just comfortable, they're not growing. It's kind of stagnant plateau. So if we take our interest inventory and we maybe don't reassess where they are in their journey at that moment, because assessing is ongoing. I'm not saying pencil paper assessing. I'm saying like even informal, communicating with them, just really hearing them. But if we don't constantly assess throughout their academic journey, then sometimes we keep what we assessed in the beginning of their school year and then we never assess again. And sometimes we find our students then in this comfort zone and they're doing just fine. Maybe they're performing, maybe they're producing and doing all the things, but there's almost like this lack of like expectation from themselves at this point. It's almost like muscle memory. They're comfortable, they're not being challenged. It's a safe place. It's easy, they don't have to put out the work. And what happens is when we keep them there, this goes for all of us really, but if we keep them there, they're not growing. And that's not safe either. A lot of times when we assess students, we focus on the students that are underperforming. They struggle, right? Our goal, we have to get them up to here, we have to get them up to grade level or whatever is put on you or you put on yourself. But the truth of the matter is, we need to look at all of our students, right? Equally so, those students that are advanced, we need to challenge them as well. So all of our students, no matter where they are, need to be continually challenged. So if we're in this comfort zone, we've done our interest inventory, we've done all the things, we've planned, we go through our year, and it's like, all right, we're good. We know what everything, where everybody's coming from. It's too comfortable. So we don't want to stay in that comfort zone. What we want to do, and I would say is a safe place, good space to be as they continue, is the stretch zone. So they're stretching themselves, but they're not panicking. They're not freaking out. It's not unrealistic expectations, but they're being stretched. They're anticipating what's to come and they're excited and they're being challenged and they're being able to be successful, but they're still being challenged and, all these things. And they feel like they are being successful, that like, okay, it's challenging, but I'm going to do it. And then they see that light at the end of the tunnel where they have excelled and they've succeeded. So that's the place where we want our students. And again, taking your interest inventory or your student inventory or your inventories that you choose, depending on which one, we want to use those ongoing so we can make sure we stay in this stretch zone. We don't want to be in the panic zone where it's above and beyond realistic expectations. There's a difference between challenging our students and being unrealistic. We don't want them scared of learning and tense and cringing every time they go to write, and they're stressed and they're frustrated and they just feel like they don't want to even try. And I think a lot of students, even parents, even teachers, stay in that panic zone because writing is an area where it's like, I don't have the time. I'm not really sure of the tools and get my students even writing. And so I feel like a lot of students, they just clinch, they shut down when it comes to writing. And part of that is because they're in the panic zone, not the comfort zone, but they need to be in the stretch zone. Now, but when we start, it's important to, again, back it up. When you're giving those interest inventories and the different inventories, let them be in that comfort zone. Let them be themselves and give you that information. But once you get that and they start producing, keep pushing them so they're in that stretch zone and they're constantly putting in that effort and they set expectations for themselves. Okay, so you've got the interest inventory, you've got the data, you move forward and you start applying it. And that's when you start to decide based off your information. Are you going to create, say for interactive notebooks, for example? When you do that, okay, are the kids that, you got various levels of interest or interactive notebooks. They are cutting and pasting for those students that you learn want to touch things. Maybe you've got students that love listening to music. Maybe they listen to music while they're doing the activity, all sorts of things. Maybe when you're writing, they're visual. They want to use those sticky dots because they're visual. That's going to get them from point A to point B because they're visual. Maybe they're hands-on and they're kinesthetic and they need to see like a representation and they need to have some sort of thing they can tie to like real life examples of that hamburger. Like, okay, writing is like a hamburger. It has a beginning, right? And an end and all the good stuff in between. Maybe they need to touch it and piece it together. And then of course, maybe they are the type that they are just very structural and the read, write, thinker, where everything needs to be organized in a structured system. And you have different ways of them getting their ideas onto paper, and how much information you expect from them is going to be based off of what they can provide for you based off that interest inventory. So at the end of the day, no matter which one you choose, no matter how you present this to your students, we want to make sure we do some sort of interest inventory kind of as an ongoing assessment in the earlier days of their school year. And things change, life changes with all of us. Do a mid-year one and beyond, so we stay in that stretch zone. Okay, so as always, our goal is to make sure we equip, empower, and elevate our students so that they can feel and be successful. I want to pop over to this picture here, this graphic. So coming up Monday, June 20th at 12 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I will be hosting a free class where we talk about the 3-step method to systematize your writing instruction for both homeschool moms as well as teachers, and how we can do that and apply it and see it effectively working in just 1 week. Okay, we want to watch our students become engaged writers every single time we give them an assignment. And again, part of that comes from what we learn and know from our students. So, excuse me, if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to pop those in the chat there. And again, if you are interested in that free class where we are going to be talking about the 3-step method and how to help your students go from just defeat and not wanting to write to interested and engaged and motivated every time, then I'd love for you to join our free class. You see it there on the screen, and that starts Monday, June 20th. All right. And if you are interested in the course that I have, the Crack the Writing Code course, that is going to be opened as well on June 20th. The website is createdtoteach.com/waitlist. You can hop over there and see more about that. If you have not joined our Facebook group, we'd love to have you in there where we kind of engage with each other and ask questions and post whatever writing questions, comments, concerns that you may have in there. If you have any specific topic that you would like me to touch on a future Writing Focus Friday, you could drop that in as well. And as always, it is nice to have everybody here. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I will see you next Friday. Until then, see you guys.